Yo, what's up, everybody? Today is Wednesday, August 6th, 2025. Bitcoin block height 908,889. Transaction fees 567 sats per VByte. Low, medium, and high priority. We got 101 unconfirmed transactions in this mempool. That might be the highest I've seen it. Maybe 140,000. I vaguely recall, but 101,000, that's a lot. Transaction fees up a little bit. And a lot of unconfirmed transactions. We got this minimum fee though, 0.1 sats per VByte. I don't even know how to set that on my node. I guess you just go into the config file and min relay tx fee, whatever the code is, and equals 0.1? Or do you put 10 million satoshis? You just put 10 million. I think it would be 0.1 because the way I think I have it set now, it's actually at 1. So I don't know. I don't know what happens with the nodes. You know, they have this whole war going on between carrier data where people will set their carrier data to 0, set it to 42, set it to 80, set it to 83, set it to unlimited, I guess, just with the whole Bitcoin Core 30 version 3.0 or whatever it is. Where they're taking the ability away for the nodes, from the nodes to edit. I don't like that, of course. You know, I think the nodes should decide. The nodes should be able to set preference. But how does it even work? Because if it's being mined, then is it really real? So maybe the miners do have a lot of power. So in 2016, they had the block size wars where it was the bigger blocks that wanted to increase the block size, and the nodes powered out and were like, yo, the miners don't have any power, the nodes have the power here based on their choice. So I wonder if this war, this conflict, the miners are going to prove worthy. I'll have to go back and do some research on that block size war because I actually wasn't here for that. And just listening to it, I would have been on the side of the big blocks. You know, whether that's good or bad, it turned out to be that was wrong currently. But it makes sense for me. You know, Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash. So would I have fallen for the Bcash? I don't know, because things are nuanced, you know, things are nuanced in Bitcoin just as things are nuanced in life. And part of their theory was good, that Bitcoin should be used as currency. Bitcoin should be used as cash. Satoshi himself said it. But the way that Bitcoin Cash did it, you know, it seemed like maybe it was too centralized with Roger Ver and I think it was Jihan Wu. Is that his name? From Bitmain? You know, they had a lot of shenanigans going on there. So the way that they did the fork, I don't know. But are we going to have forks in the future? Yeah, dude. Of course we're going to have forks in the future, man. Humans can't freaking agree on anything. We're going to have forks in the future. You know, you're already hearing this stuff about tail emissions where they want to increase the limit or the amount of Bitcoin over 21 million. And it's not even 21 million. It's like 19 and something million, but we just say 21 million or it's 20 million, you know, whatever it is, the exact number. But yeah, so we got that going on. People are talking about that. We don't agree on nothing. So there will be forks, but what is the popular one? Which popular one sticks around? Which will the people be with? So I agree with Bitcoin Cash in the terms that Bitcoin should be used as money. So that's good. But I don't agree with how they did it. You know, it was more centralized. And I think that is also unfinished business where we think, oh, we had the hash wars. A lot of people will say that. Or we had the block size wars. We learned that that was not the answer. But no, actually, it's not true. Just because it was one failed attempt to increase the block size doesn't mean that there won't be another attempt. And it also doesn't mean that there won't be a successful attempt to increase the block size. And it also means that increasing the block size isn't the answer. It doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't increase the block size. Because if we go back and do the history, also learning about Satoshi, Satoshi was, in fact, in favor of increasing the block size. But nobody talks about that. They only talk about Hal Finney. How Finney says that Bitcoin won't be used by the average pleb. Bitcoin will be used by the banks, and the plebs will use some shitcoin derivative of some sort. That's what you hear about. So the popular sense is that Bitcoin won't be used as currency, and I don't like that. I don't agree with that. I don't like that at all, because if Bitcoin's not used as a currency, then nobody's going to use it, right? So if it's not being used, nobody uses it, and then nobody's going to give a shit. It'll be easier for the people in the background that are just holding the Bitcoin to manipulate the Bitcoin, control the Bitcoin, and you won't have to worry about transparency, right? Because you'll be transacting on something else, on some other chain or database or some other digital coin or dollar or some sort of currency system. So you won't even care about Bitcoin. So all the transparency, the immutability, the proof of work, the blockchain that is Bitcoin, you won't get any of the benefits of it because you won't be using Bitcoin. So it's a crazy topic, man. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to think about. That's why I lean in the other direction. And people could discard your opinion too. Like, oh, hey, he said he would be with Bcash, so he's a fucking idiot. You could say that about me, right? But I'm just saying, speaking my thoughts, seeing, and maybe I am an idiot. Maybe that is true. That turns out to be true. But the fact that we will just discard things, we get caught, humans, we get caught in our own, I guess we start thinking that we're the shit, We start thinking that we got it all figured out. Complacency is probably the word for that. With Bitcoin too, when people say Bitcoin is already won and we sit around and we don't have to do shit. Bitcoin's inevitable. Things like that, So that's complacency, and, heard it all before. So we get complacent. Now there's a lot of truth in those things. This is why I go back to things being nuanced. But that's also a trap where you could fail, and Bitcoin could fail and be captured due to human complacency. So it's both, it's both, man. And we just got to figure it out as we go. But I'm definitely trying to learn. Bitcoin USD price 115,049 US pieces of paper. 24-hour high was 115,581. 24-hour low was 113,227. All right, did I miss my chance here? I saw Bitcoin dip to 12K, 112K. Then it dipped down then it pumped to like 115, and it dipped down to 113, 112.9. Now it's back up to 115. Hey, I'm trying to get in 99K. All right, it's got my buy order set. 99K. Am I being stubborn? Am I being greedy? Yes. Will it pay off? I don't know. I hope so. I hope we see it at 99K. Then we moonshot. But I'm getting tempted. I might just buy it. Like, you know what? 115. That's still a great price. 115 is still a great price. Let me just get a little bit. Let me just pick it up. Fuck it. 115. I like it. I like the number 115. It's nice. Just being a little stubborn, a little greedy here. Don't want to break my streak. I don't want to give up just yet. It's August. I would love to go the whole year buying sub 100K, but I doubt that's going to happen in 2025. We're probably going to moonshot. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I'm sure Trump's going to pump the economy and Bitcoin will do the same thing. But here's an example too, right? If nobody's using Bitcoin as a currency, then who cares? There's no transparency. then we'll just have ETFs. We'll have Bitcoin treasury companies. We'll have dollars. We'll have all this other stuff on top. People will be trading that around. So Bitcoin will just be controlled just like digital gold is controlled. You know, gold is only effective if you hold it in self-custody physically. But then it's a pain in the ass because you can't use it for nothing. You got it in your custody. What do you got to do? In and out, right? So it's a pain in the ass. Not many people hold gold in self-custody, physical gold. And it's the same is true with Bitcoin. The only way Bitcoin wins is if the majority of people hold it in self-custody. That's where the power is. Self-custody. If you're not holding it, then you don't have Bitcoin. You got some other shit. You know, you're far away from Bitcoin. Somebody else holds Bitcoin. Or maybe they don't. You don't know. You're just buying a stock, some sort of product, some sort of ETF. Human nonsense. You're not buying digital scarcity, verifiable, on-chain, 24/7, 365 for everybody to look at and see. You know, that's the invention, man. That's the fucking invention. And that's why, you know, one of the reasons why I'm huge on Bitcoin Spaces protocol, because it leverages the Bitcoin blockchain without any code change needed. It just uses Bitcoin for naming. And this is what I like, you know. I love Bitcoin so much. I want all these products on Bitcoin. Everything that you use should be on Bitcoin or at least tied to Bitcoin as some sort of trust anchor in some way. Now, of course, responsibly done, minimal on-chain footprint. And I know the Knots crew likes to say, oh, no database, no data on-chain. Well, I have an interesting question for all those pro Knots users. Why the hell is the default byte size for data carrier op return set to 42 bytes on Knots? Why isn't it set to 0? What's the importance of 42 bytes? You know, are you giving a nod to maybe some things are valuable on Bitcoin? Some things could be saved on Bitcoin. They're worth saving on Bitcoin as long as it's 42 bytes or lower, then you'll relay it. Now, I know it gives you the option to configure it down to 0, 41, 40, 50. You can turn it up to 100, you know, whatever. But what's the reasoning? I would love to know that. So if there's any Knots folks in the chat, throw that in there. Let me know why 42 bytes default setting on Knots nodes. Because that to me is a nod that there is important things that could be saved on Bitcoin. Just don't flood the chain with bullshit. JPEGs, high bytage, high weight, you know, lightweight, like Spaces protocol right here. And naming's super important, man. So, you know, what are you going to do? We got money, we got naming, right? Digital IDs are coming, social credit scores, centralized digital IDs. What are you going to do? You going to opt out? Oh, yeah? Where are you going to run? What you going to do? Yeah, you ain't going to opt out because there ain't shit. This is the only one. This is the real one. Spaces protocol. Spaces on Bitcoin. It's the same keys that you use to fucking secure your Bitcoin, secure your identity, secure your name. And you even have people like Tomer Stromholm or something, what is Stromlight, Tomer, whatever. He talks about Bitcoin's a database. He talks about the Bitcoin address space is your namespace. It is your identity. Those are his words. Those are his exact words. But he's pro Knots. He doesn't like data on chain. So how do you hold those two things? You know, you really think that we're going to run around with these long BC1Q addresses? No, man, we're not going to do it. If we're going to do that, then we would just have IP addresses for websites. No, we don't. We don't do that. Humans do that. This is what humans do. We take hard to read data and we make it easy. Look what we did with private keys, the ones and zeros of a Bitcoin private key. You ever see a Bitcoin private key? It's just this long string of ones and zeros. That's the private key. Well, we created some sort of mapping system where each word maps to, I think it's a 4-digit 0001, 0011, or 0111, 1111, 1110, 1100, right? So there's all these mappings that we did with, you have the seed phrases, you know, it's some Bitcoin improvement proposal. You can look it up. I don't know what number it is. And there's another Bitcoin improvement proposal. I think it's Bitcoin improvement proposal 353 for human readable names. Matt Carolla. But that proposal proposes that we still rely on a centralized service, DNS. But no, we're not relying on centralized shit, dude. That's a fault. That's a problem. Spaces Protocol does it without any middleman, anything. It's just a permissionless open source protocol. You can run it. You don't have to run it. It's a lightweight protocol. Run it, don't run it, whatever. But if you find it useful, which I do, convert your Bitcoin wallet addresses into human readable names, you can use it. And I think more people will use it once we get through this whole Knots core war and people just figuring it out. It's very early, you know, even with Bitcoin, all this stuff on Bitcoin. So yeah, people are against it like hardcore right now. Oh, nothing on chain. So I would be really curious, why 42 bytes? Why not default Knots to 0 bytes? Why doesn't it come 0 bytes? What the heck is it set to 42 bytes by default? I don't understand. I would love to know though. So if anyone knows, please let me know. And I think that's kind of the gotcha moment. Or maybe there's something they're like, hey, this is important. Here's why. And I'm like, oh, so, you know, things should be saved on chain. Technical, a lot of people don't. Philosophical, you know, a lot of people don't really get into the weeds with this. But Bitcoiners do, man. If you see that personality test that's out there, I took it. And I'm one of those ones at the bottom, the INJT or something like that, whatever, the personality test. It's low in overall society, but it's high in Bitcoin. So it's kind of weird. All the people that like Bitcoin and promote Bitcoin and love Bitcoin for what it is, they have this certain personality type. Independent thinkers, and really, you know, not really wanting to rely on anyone else, not really wanting to trust people. Of course, we value trust, friendship, relationships, but we also want to verify, you know, we want to be safe at the same time. As safe as you can be, because there is risk. There's inherent risk in all the things you do. We're willing to take some risk, but you know, whatever. I can't speak for everybody. I just speak for myself. I'm willing to take some risk, but calculated risk, you know, risk versus benefit. Is it worth it? All right, total Bitcoin burned here in Spaces Protocol 1.50886501, climbing every day. 8,107 bids, 2,490 transfers and registers, and 2,591 rollouts. Spaces in auction, 2 Pooty codes, document, launch, register. All can be claimed, but still open for bidding. FY, SD, claimable in about 1 hour. ATM and BFF, claimable in about 6 hours and 40 minutes. Recent Spaces actions, transfers on CAD, HF, TS, BC1, and HW. And we saw the latest rollouts on page refresh. Failed to fetch recent actions. All right, maybe there's some update going on here. There is a community call coming up. All right, failed to fetch. Network response was not okay. Error. An error. All right, well, we do these shows live, so it is what it is. And this is just an Explorer. Anyone could actually create a web page, and I would like to do it. I need to figure out how to do it. My technical skills are not super high, but I could do things if I learn about it. You know, it just takes time usually for me. It took me freaking 7 years and probably like 2 months being into Bitcoin before I started running a node. Took me a long time, dude. Took me a long time. I was definitely curious. I knew that I wanted to do it, but it just took me a while, man. Some things take a long time. All right, so we're not going to be able to see the latest rollouts or finish this video. Oh, starting to load. Starting to load a little bit, little bit. All right, so we saw some rollouts 168 QS, JN, and FQ. Upcoming rollouts Virgin, GP, SEO, GEO, Sultan, PRN, Prawn, Ads, DVPN, OT, and Longevity. Spaces.market, latest listings Dave, Sam, EG, BMW, NI, Verify, CH, Layer, Sugar. All right, and this is just the marketplace you can buy. Same thing, secondary marketplace. Anyone can create these websites too and just read the protocol. I want to do it. That's what I want to do. I want to make an Explorer page. I want to make a marketplace page. I just got to learn how to do it. I also want to make a Twitter bot where the bot just posts like the sales, all the relevant stuff. I just got to learn how to do it. You know, with the Twitter bot, you got to get some sort of API or you contact their API and you have to have some sort of elevated account on Twitter. You got to request it. Then you got to figure out how to do it. You know, I mean, there's some stuff, man. It's probably easy, somewhat easy, but still it takes a little bit of skill, a little bit of know-how. I can do it. Just got to get around to it. All right, that's going to be it for this one. Thank y'all for watching.